And welcome back to another episode Thursday, April 25th. It's your boy JohnnyVTV, joined by Doug Ziefel here. And Doug, thanks so much for joining, buddy. It's going to be a big final week of April for college baseball. And, now we're getting down to the nitty gritty. This is the home stretch for a lot of teams, especially in the SEC. These guys only have 3, maybe 4 more conference series left before the conference tournament starts. So how you doing?
I'm doing good, Johnny. Coming off a bit of a lighter week, but you know what? Doesn't matter if we scale back the volume a little bit later on the weekend. We're gonna keep nailing these Friday slates. So looking forward to another good Friday slate here.
Yeah, for sure. And I probably expect a lot of people are watching the NFL draft. I'm actually sweating out something as we speak. I need over 6.5 wide receivers taken in the first round. I think there's 3. So I'm a little surprised. I thought there would be 4 taken in the top 20, but now we need a little run here in the back of the first round for that. But Doug, as we do get into what we're expecting for the breakdown of these games, do you have anything that you're looking out for in week 11 here? It was a little bit of a crazy week last week, and do you expect more of the same, or you thinking a different result might come through, or what's going on?
I'm thinking at least for our Friday slate here, we're going to need to see some pitching get back on track here. We've noticed a lot of teams, at least in the SEC, kind of flipping around rotations. Mainly our boys at Mississippi State keeping drained a little back to Sunday instead of the Saturday spot here. Friday spot technically. Then you're looking at Alabama, who flip-flop. Ben Hess is going tomorrow. Had Ferrone going tonight. And a couple other teams have also flip-flopped their pitching. So it's going to be interesting to see how these teams' rotations play out down the stretch, especially, like you said, with conference play beginning to wrap up and the pressure getting on some of these programs that we had higher expectations for.
Yeah, I agree. I think for me, this is really like a team-wide thing. If you're a team that has not been playing your best baseball right now, this is kind of the week to start. You have a very short amount of time until you're playing conference tournaments, and then ultimately going into I knew the Dolphins weren't going to go receiver. Sorry. But ultimately going into conference tournaments and then the regionals. So a team like Oregon State, who's not playing good baseball right now, at home against Oregon, at home they've been really good this year. Oregon is a team that they're kind of jiving with right now in order to win the Pac-12. So this would be a really good opportunity for a team like them, or a team like, let's say, I don't know, Florida State, who's in tough series that they've been in, have found ways to lose, and they're at Duke this week. And, I think really the winner of this series has a really good shot to come away with an opportunity to win the ACC regular season. The loser's all but done. I still expect both teams to make a run this year. But, I think if we're talking about teams that want to start playing their best baseball, now's the time. I don't think they could wait much longer. And you saw TCU last year. It was kind of in that realm where they didn't really get hot until towards the end of the regular season. But then when they did, they made the run to the College World Series. So it's time here, Doug. It's time for these teams to wake up and decide that they actually want to play baseball.
Agreed. We conference tournaments don't get a lot of love in college baseball, especially the SEC. But you brought up a great point with TCU last year. TCU got hot through their conference tournament and rode it all the way through Omaha. It really, like you said, the stretch run starts now and it continues through the end of next month.
I mean, really, if you look at 3 teams that got hot, Oral Roberts, TCU, Tennessee. Tennessee was bad until they swept Vanderbilt at home in the middle of or late April. This was about the time last year where they turned it on and ultimately propelled them to play in the College World Series. So, I think this is definitely starting to be the time where you got to turn it on. The teams that we had really anticipated, I'm looking for them to find themselves, make a move, show some heart. And teams that have been playing hot, just keep doing what you're doing. So, without further ado, let's get to the first game. Georgia Bulldogs on the road at the Texas A&M Aggies. This is a series in the SEC that is filled with a lot of firepower on the offensive end. Doug, A&M's throwing Ryan Prager. I think it's Leighton Finley for Georgia. It's definitely a big pitching advantage for the Aggies, and obviously, that reflects in what the odds are. The offenses, though, can be determined almost as a wash. Do you give Georgia any shot, or are you putting A&M in a parlay? How are you approaching this game here?
Honestly, I'd have to wait to see. I want to see what the run line is for this. I might even be willing to play 2.5. We've talked about it all season. We've seen the Bulldogs switch up their rotation here a couple last weekends, and the main concern has been their bullpen all year. Honestly, this Aggies lineup isn't going to let up. And, if Prager continues to be solid, I don't expect them to be perfect. This Georgia lineup deserves a lot of respect. But the Aggies are a team that are going to continue to punish throughout the whole game. And this Georgia bullpen is a big weakness. So if I get a run line as low as around, I'd say 2.5, I would take them. I feel like the Aggies could definitely, they can pull away late here.
I think I'm going with A&M in a parlay. I think Georgia could keep it close, but the problem is the pitching is not good. Like, there is a big difference of what Prager will do versus whatever Georgia's pitching is going to do. Georgia's pitching is definitely it's definitely a problem right now. I think we could realistically expect A&M to score somewhere around 7-8 runs at least, and I just don't know if Georgia can not only match that, which I believe they can, but in the big innings, are they going to be able to hold the Aggies offense down? And that's one of the big question marks, right? But I think maybe a total could even be in play. If we get something along the lines of like 11.5, 12.5, wouldn't be surprised seeing over. But for me, I feel like the only certainty is probably A&M with Ryan Prager in the mound, because let's not forget, Doug, Tanner Jones hasn't been great on the Saturday roll. And then Justin Lampkin looks like he might be out of the rotation this week. He's been struggling the last 4 starts, so we don't even know who they're going to throw. So I will say Saturday and Sunday is up for grabs, but I think Friday goes the way of A&M.
Yeah, that total, though, that you have projected there, I think might be a little bit wishful thinking. I feel like both these offenses, you're going to get a total that it might even be too high. Too high, not too high as in you're going to take it under, but too high as in it's going to be a stay away from me. I feel like you might see it at 14 here, especially when you consider, these teams going back and forth.
Yeah, I hear you. I think this is going to be definitely one to watch, but let's move on here. We got the Clemson Tigers at the Louisville Cardinals. The top 5 Clemson Tigers. They're a short favorite at a Louisville team that is very questionable. I guess the question is, how much are you betting on Clemson? Because I don't think you're looking to take Sebastian Gongora and Louisville even at home, are you?
Yeah, no, you're right. Clemson is a smash spot here at this price. The Tigers have really gotten it going. Their offense really kind of got off to a slow start early in the year, but they found it of late. And this is the team that us and our group were all putting futures on before the year. The Tigers are really rounding into form. And as you mentioned, Gongora, wow, he's been good. He's shown some bright spots. He's certainly not a guy to back against this lineup, even at home.
A little bit of a slapdick, just a little bit. I think the guy I'm looking at back for Louisville is probably Evan Webster. Mm-hmm. He's largely been successful. He's kind of been this year's Carson Liggett for the Cardinals. I think, if we're being honest, this is probably an opportunity to maybe look at Clemson on Friday, Louisville Saturday, Clemson Sunday, but it wouldn't surprise me to see Clemson sweep this entire series. I know everybody on our side here was looking at Clemson preseason, and I was a little hesitant because I had a lot of questions about the pitching. It's been a lot better than I thought it would be, I will say, but there's still a long way to go. But I definitely think the Tigers at minus 140 is a good bet. I only see this going up from here. I think the close is going to be a lot bigger. So grab it now while you can. This is one of my favorite games of the weekend. Florida State at Duke. It's basically a pick'em. The Blue Devils are home. Florida State lost that Wake last week. And I feel bad for Florida State because if you look at it, all of their really tough series in the ACC have all been on the road. They had to go at Clemson. They had to go at Wake. They have to go at Duke. Like they're the three best teams, and they all got to be on the road. And last week, even though they lost the series, they realistically should have swept Wake Forest, just like they probably should have swept Clemson. They're having trouble in pivotal moments locking it down, especially late in the game. It's been a problem, and it cost them a series at Wake. And ultimately, if they haven't melted down the way they have against Clemson and Wake Forest, we could probably be looking at this team in a commanding lead in the ACC. Instead, they got to go at Duke and probably somewhat keep their top 8 seed hopes alive to not only host a regional, but a super regional. Jamie Arnold, Jonathan Santucci, two of the premier lefties. Doug, who you got?
Yeah, it's a great pitching matchup. And in Florida State, we've seen them be able to swing at James Tibbs leading this club. They've got firepower. Duke obviously showed they've got the ability to swing it too. I kind of feel like the pitching matchup might drive this total down a little bit too low, honestly. While it would be fun to watch Santucci and Arnold duel in this one, I kind of feel like if it's going to be a duel, Santucci's going to get the better of it here. And like you said, you talked about Florida State's bullpen struggles, and might lead me to look towards an over, because late in this game, we can see the Blue Devils pull out in front. I mean, I'm not saying that I'm playing this, above 12 or anything, but this starting pitching matchup, we've seen DraftKings move big on some of these big pitching unders. We've seen 9.5s, 10.5s. I think that's something that we might see here. And I might look towards an over because honestly, I feel like Florida State, they're priced well. Like you said, this could be a buy low spot for them. But right now, it is a complete toss up for me sidewise.
I think I got to go Duke. I'm leaning the home team here. Jamie Arnold is an absolute stud, no doubt. But I think ultimately Duke is a team that I trust more at home. Florida State really hasn't proved it for me against quality competition on the road. They've kept it close. I'm not sitting here saying it's going to be a blowout or anything like that. And I'm not saying Florida State's necessarily going to lose the series, although I do think Duke wins it. But the fact is, because the Seminoles haven't been good enough on the road for me to say, yeah, I think they're going to win. You're getting Duke at home at minus 120. Even against a team like Florida State, this is a steal, man. So I think for me, for at least game one, I'm probably going to go with the Blue Devils here because, they've been much better at home. And I think Florida State has to prove it on the road for me right now. I'm not saying that they can't win the series, but, it's going to be hard for them to take game one, even with Jamie Arnold on the mound. Let's switch over here to the Fun Belt. We got a huge matchup with Troy at Coastal Carolina. Doug, I don't know if you've noticed, but Louisiana Lafayette, who Coastal beat in a 3-game series last weekend in Conway, is ahead in the lead in the Sun Belt, standings-wise. But then the next 4 teams, Coastal, Southern Miss, Troy, and then you can even put Georgia State in there. Coastal Carolina's schedule over the last few weeks, over the final few weeks, is going to be huge. They're going to have an opportunity to probably steal the Sun Belt regular season title away from ULL. And it starts with Troy. It's 220. It's a steep price. Are you playing this game at all? Where are you leaning for this?
Yeah, I mean, the reason why we've seen Coastal slide really out of this, dominant pedestal we kind of put them on from early in the year is their pitching is really complete hit or miss. We've seen good outings from Riley Eichhoff, and then we've seen complete blow-ups from him and the rest of the rotation. So the pitching is really not to be trusted here. But the Chanticleer's offense, especially at home, is just dynamite. Pop all over the place. Conway is an extreme hitter's park. And that might help Troy here, too. I was looking up at Troy's numbers. I haven't got a lot of eyeballs on them, but 126 WRC plus, an ISO, a team ISO, over 217. So they've got plenty of pop, too. This could be an over. We might see one of those ridiculously high numbers coming out, like those 14, 15, 16 Coastal totals. But honestly, this could be a game where the Trojans come out and slug it with them.
Maybe. I mean, the thing is here, I'm very disappointed Coastal, just the way they lost at Creighton last week, or not last week, in the midweek. But they're at home. It's a weekend series. I think the chances, the realistic possibility is likely that a lot of teams just don't care about midweek. Like, they act like they do, but they're not focused on it. Especially a team like Coastal, who's most likely going to host. They're definitely going to make it, but they're most likely going to host. Like, beating Creighton in the midweek is good for just, to rack up the wins and, keep the mojo going, but that's not what they're focused on. Still doesn't excuse the fact that their pitching is a problem, and it has been for a long time. I like the Chants. I think they win. I think they're a good parlay piece with maybe an A&M, maybe another game we're going to get to in a minute. But I think Coastal here, I would not lay the 220, but I do think putting them with a parlay, a good partner, is going to be probably the way to attack, because I'm not a huge fan of Troy. Like, I think they're solid, but, they took the league by storm last year. They should have probably beat Alabama in the regionals, but I don't think they're a real contender with a team like Coastal Carolina, in the sense that they should go into Conway and beat them in a 3-game set. Okay, the last highlighted game, keeping it short tonight, is Mississippi State at Vanderbilt. It is Cal Steven, who has been one of the most underrated and best pitchers in the country this year. At Vanderbilt, Bryce Cunningham, who's staying in the Friday role. You're getting Mississippi State at a very nice plus 135. Doug, I don't know how you don't take a shot on the Bulldogs.
Yeah, I agree. This is Mississippi. Mississippi State is your side here, but give credit to Vanderbilt. They are a home team. This team, they swing it so good at home. They love playing in their ballpark. And, I love Bryce Cunningham. I gushed over him 2 weeks ago and was wrong. Credit to you, Johnny. But this is a spot where him and Cal Steven are going to be neck and neck here. And honestly, I might look towards an under, depending on the number we get. 11.5, 12.5. Definitely in range here with both these starters. I expect Cunningham to be solid at home, but this is going to be a tight one, and Mississippi State is definitely underpriced here.
You're not kidding, though. Vanderbilt has been great at home. They're 23-4 this year. I mean, but you think about it, like, look who they played at home, dude. They played Auburn at home. They played Mizzou at home. They played the Florida Gators at home. They have not played the top competition. Definitely Mississippi State is the top half of the SEC this year. Cal Steven is a better pitcher than Bryce Cunningham. I think that's flat. I'm not deterred by the fact that you would say Vanderbilt's a better home team. And even in the Game 1 series, the trend that we've seen continue to take the Commodores. But at the end of the day, you're giving me the better pitcher with a really good number. And I think for me, it's a big series for both teams, but I think for me, Mississippi State, if they could take this Vanderbilt series, they have a really good chance to make their way into a host. They got Alabama next week. Then they got Arkansas. They're going to lose at Arkansas the series, but then they come home to play Mizzou. So I think Vanderbilt definitely, it's the make or break series for them. And I think, Mississippi State's too good to pass up. It wouldn't shock me to see Vanderbilt win, but laying 175 against a better pitcher and a lineup that might be better as well, that's not my bag, bro. I like the Bulldogs for Friday. Okay, so that'll do it for the highlighted series. Doug, are there any other games that you're interested in? I know there's a lot we kind of left off the card here.
Yeah, I was just pulling up trying to get some projected starting pitching, but I like Kansas, home dog, even money here against Texas Tech. We've talked at length about Texas Tech's pitching issues this year. Yes, they have a lineup that can slug, but Reese Dutton for Kansas has been tremendous, and he has the ability to keep them in this game. And we've seen Kansas be able to score too, especially at home. And I think Kansas has the pitching edge here. They really should. This price stays at plus money, or even if Texas Tech gets steamed, it's a mistake in my opinion.
Yeah, I got you. I think that's definitely a noteworthy spot here for Kansas. But I think a game I did want to talk about is Arkansas. They're home to Florida. Hagen Smith's going against Pierce Capola. I think Arkansas being minus 250 at home with Hagen is. I wouldn't bet that straight, even though it is probably a good bet. But I think that's the kind of game where you parlay Texas A&M with, or you parlay Coastal with. I feel like Hagen Smith is definitely he's the golden boy right now. This is the guy that you have to back every single time. It's a lot like Rhett Lauder last year, Paul Skeens last year, where every time they're on the mound, you got to be putting money on them in some way. And I think backing Arkansas and A&M, the number 1 and number 2 team, on a Friday night parlay with 2 guys who have been amazing on the mound, I think that's probably the way to go. Maybe add Coastal in there, or whoever else tickles your fancy.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Hagen Smith is $250 is a nice price for him. They're giving respect to Florida. If it wasn't Florida, you're going to see that price approach $3. But that I feel like I agree with you. That's a great 2-teamer there, Texas A&M and Arkansas. Real quick, what do you think about Kentucky and South Carolina? Another one of those almost pick 'em.
I was just about to ask about that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, man. I've been betting a lot against Kentucky. I bet against them this weekend. Worked out. Tennessee is the better team. They ended up taking advantage. South Carolina has been a lot better at home, but they're going with Roman Kimball, who, Eli Jones has been their guy this year, and he's been really good overall. But Roman Kimball, I don't know how much they're going to get out of him. Maybe they get 4 innings, maybe 5. I just feel like Kentucky is on a different level than what the Gamecocks are. I don't think the Gamecocks are bad. I don't think they're that good. I I think they're solid, and I think them being in the SEC, they get a little bit of a boost. So for me, you're getting the Wildcats as an underdog, and they've seemed to win pretty much wherever they are, whether they're at home or on the road. So I think Kentucky is definitely the play for me, dude. What about you?
Yeah, I agree. I was just looking up some offensive numbers. Kentucky is overall they're the better offensive lineup as well. Like you said, you talked about what we're unsure what we're going to get from Roman Kimball on the Gamecock side, and if it's going to come down to scoring runs, you're going to want to take the Wildcats. Their WRC plus is 12 to 13 points better. South Carolina's pop is really not what we thought it was going to be with guys like Ethan Petrie in this lineup. Overall, yeah, and like you said, Kentucky is the side here, and I wish they were plus money, but taking them at $1.10 is nice too.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing too. You have to understand. Everybody needs to realize that we're getting this at a really good price right now. It very rarely moves the night before. We're sitting here on a Thursday night. There's not going to be that much movement until probably tomorrow morning. So the fact is, if you could lock it in now, you're really looking at a much better price, because for all we know, tomorrow we wake up and Kentucky's minus 135. And now you're going to pay $25 more. And then who knows what it looks like before first pitch tomorrow night. So it's definitely important to be able to get on the train early before things start to spiral out of control. I did want to ask you, what do you think about this Oregon State-Oregon matchup? I know we talked a little bit about State, but minus 220 at home against Oregon. This is a big moment for the Beavers. They got swept at Cal. They've looked like utter garbage. They've been complete shit. Their pitching cannot hold a lead. Their offense has been weak. Do they finally get this done against the in-state rival Ducks?
Yeah, I mean, this is a team that, like early in the season, we were banging the table. It was like, oh, national title contender, here we go. This offense is legit. They've got an ace again. And it's like, what has happened? It's just falling off the table. It's weird to call this a buy low spot for Oregon State considering the pricing, but I feel like they're an interesting parlay piece. You bring in the rivalry aspect of this game, and I think that's going to play key into some motivation here to get it going on Friday night for these guys. I would look to back Oregon State in a parlay here. I'm expecting them to wake up. Like we were talking about at the beginning of the show, we're getting to put up or shut up time here for a lot of these teams in conference play, and Oregon State's one of these teams that they've got to announce their presence with authority down the stretch.
Bro, it's now or it's never. It's now or never for Oregon State. A win this weekend at home against your hated in-state rival could propel them for the rest of the way. I think me have believed that Oregon State was going to be a team that was going to be destined for big things this year. And I'm not saying they're not going to, because they're still not healthy. They're missing Trent Caraway. Micah McDowell's been in and out of the lineup. Brady Casper just came back. I think it's hard to really judge their offense until everybody's back in the fold. So ultimately, I do believe Oregon State is a team that is going to be feared, kind of like they were in the beginning of the year when everybody was on the field and they were just ripping 15, 20 base hits in a game and 12, 15 runs. But they need this one. This is a big one. I don't care what anybody says. This is one where they absolutely need to take 2 or 3. And if they sweep, then this could be really what gives them that kick in the ass to keep moving forward the rest of the way. Doug, anything else? Any long shots you like for tomorrow?
I'm gonna take a look at the board here. Anything that jumped out? Oh, one thing that I was looking at, this Texas Oklahoma pricing is interesting. Oklahoma minus 140 at home, and Texas 110 on the road. I know the Longhorns. The Longhorns pitching, even LeBaron, when LeBaron was on the mound, not great this year. But this game could be a barn burner. It could be very high scoring, and Texas is definitely not out of it as a slight dog. There's definitely just one underdog that kind of jumped out at me. Anything for you?
I think for me, I'm probably, I don't know. I think maybe a team that I would consider is Cal State Fullerton plus 220 at UC Santa Barbara. I know the Gauchos have been playing a lot better lately, but I think it wouldn't surprise me to see Fullerton steal one at Santa Barbara. I don't know if I'm going to officially play it. I haven't gotten a pitching rotation yet for what UCSB's thrown out there, but I gotta be honest. I mean, it could be fade Matt Ager day. He's not been the guy this year that we thought might be one of the best pitchers in college baseball. This is a guy that we realistically thought might have an opportunity to go inside the first round, and he's not been that guy, from start to finish. It's just been a little weak. He's got over a 5 ERA. I don't even know if he's fully starting anymore. His last outing was the other day, so he might actually even be out of the rotation at this point. Like Ager has not been any semblance of what we thought he might be. So it's been rough for him. So if he starts, I think he's an automatic fade. But I do think Fullerton, one way or another, is live to steal at least one game. And if you're getting them at plus 220 on Friday, who knows?
Yeah, that's an interesting move. Last weekend they had Ryan Gallagher go in game 1 of their series, and he pitched very well, but it was against UC Davis. Big discrepancy in lineup for him.
What about Auburn at LSU? Auburn is plus 170. LSU's minus 220. It's Gage Jump on the mounds. He's been okay at best. They're saving Holman for Saturday. LSU, I'm kind of on the no bet list right now, but do you think Auburn could steal one, or they're just that bad?
I don't know. I kind of feel like they're just that bad. They're going into the box, and Gage Jump has been hit or miss, but I don't have any confidence in this Auburn staff to go on the road and take a game on Friday night.
Yeah, I feel you. But Doug, any other ones, or are you good?
No, I'm all good right now. We'll see. I'll have my full card out tomorrow morning. Hopefully, maybe I'll find something. We got to see how things start moving.
No doubt. My full card right now, I got Duke money line, Clemson money line, Mississippi State money line, Kentucky money line, parlaying Arkansas, TAMU, and Wake. Chase Burns at Notre Dame. They're north of minus 325, so that's the only way to get involved. But thank you, everybody, so much for tuning in. We will see you tomorrow. Same crew back here tomorrow evening, getting ready for a Saturday edition of college baseball betting. For Doug Ziefel, I'm JohnnyVTV. We'll see you tomorrow. Best of luck.